I'll pull current, accurate details before writing this so the injury info is correct. 3 men. 3 knees. 3 shoulders held together by tape, screws, and hope. And 1 football team whose entire future is the smartest coaches alive. Missed the postseason entirely. And as if that wasn't enough, the season ended with not 1, not 2, but 3 of their most important players walking off the field with serious injuries. So today, we're going to slow down and actually walk through what happened. Not just the headlines. The real story. The night Patrick Mahomes went down. The collision that's haunted Rashee Rice for almost 2 years. And 3 medical charts. So let's start where it all went wrong. It's the middle of December. The Chiefs are already fighting just teams 2 with this offensive line, and he does what he's done 1,000 times before. He tucks the ball and takes off, looking for room to create something out of nothing. It's the move that's defined his entire career. The scramble. The imp gets twisted underneath him as he's going down, and his knee bends in a direction knees are not supposed to bend. He doesn't get up right away. And anyone who's watched enough football knows that silence on the field, that pause before a player even tries to move, is almost always a bad sign. The next day, the news comes back, and it's brutal. A torn ACL. A torn LCL. 2 of the major ligaments in his left knee, both gone in a single play. Surgery is scheduled almost immediately. And just like that, the questions start. Is this the end of an era? Is this the moment the dynasty actually cracks? Because quarterbacks don't always come back the same after something like this. Mobility is half of what makes Mahomes who he is. Take that away, even a little, and you're not looking at the same player. Here's the thing though. This isn't the first time people have counted Mahomes out because of his legs. Years earlier, early in his career, he dislocated his kneecap in a game and the whole league assumed his season was finished. He came back in a matter of weeks. Not months. Weeks. So when this new injury happened, there was this strange split inside Chiefs Nation. Half the fanbase was bracing for the worst. The other half was quietly remembering that Mahomes has broken the rules of recovery before. Which brings us to the part of the story that's still being written right now, this offseason, in real time. By late spring, reporters started getting little glimpses of his progress, and the tone was cautiously hopeful. Kansas City's general manager came out and said Mahomes was way ahead of schedule. Not on schedule. Ahead of it. That's the kind of phrase that sends a ripple through an entire fanbase. Then Mahomes himself showed up to voluntary workouts, just months removed from major reconstructive surgery, and actually took part. Limited, sure. Controlled. But he was out there, throwing, moving, doing 7-on-7 work where he wasn't allowed to be hit. Coach Andy Reid stood at the podium afterward and basically confirmed what everyone was thinking. The surgery had gone well. The knee was in pretty good shape to start working with. But Reid also did something coaches do when they don't want to overpromise. He warned people. He said recovery from something this serious almost never moves in a perfectly straight line. There could be a plateau. A stretch where progress just stalls. And if that happens in the final weeks before training camp, it could change everything. So Kansas City did what smart franchises do. They didn't bet the entire season on one man's knee healing perfectly on schedule. They went out and traded for a backup quarterback, Justin Fields, a player who can actually win games on his own if he has to. It was a quiet but loud message. We believe in Mahomes. But we're not naive. By the time mandatory minicamp rolled around in June, Mahomes was doing more. 7-on-7 work. No problem. But he still hadn't been cleared for full 11-on-11 team drills, the real test, the moment where a quarterback has to trust his knee under actual pressure with real bodies flying around him. That clearance wasn't expected to come until training camp, the true proving ground, set to open in late July down in St. Joseph, Missouri. And here's a detail that should give you chills if you're a Chiefs fan. The Chiefs opened their regular season on September 14th, on Monday Night Football, at home, against their rival, the Denver Broncos. Count the days from the moment Mahomes tore that ACL in mid-December to that opening kickoff. It comes out to almost exactly 9 months. 9 months to go from a shredded knee to leading his team out under the lights on national television. The league didn't have to schedule that game in that slot. But putting Kansas City's franchise quarterback front and center on the biggest weeknight stage in football tells you something about how confident people around the league are starting to feel. Still, nobody, not Reed, not the front office, not even Mahomes himself, is guaranteeing anything. The real answer doesn't come from interviews or minicamp highlight reels. It comes from one specific moment in training camp, when Mahomes has to run full speed and cut hard on that knee for the first time in live action. That's the test that actually matters. Everything before it is just build-up. Now, here's where this story takes a turn you might not expect, because Mahomes' knee injury isn't actually the first time his body has collided with a teammate's in a way that changed the entire trajectory of a season. Rewind back to a Sunday in late September of 2024. The Chiefs are up against the Chargers, and early in the game, there's an interception. Players are scrambling, trying to make a play, trying to get a tackle. And in the chaos, Mahomes himself crashes into the knee of his own wide receiver, Rashee Rice, as both of them dive for the same moment of opportunity. Rice goes down immediately. He's carted off. And for the next several days, nobody actually knows how bad it is. At first, the fear is the worst possible outcome, a torn ACL. Then the story shifts. Then it shifts again. Coach Reed stands in front of cameras and says, honestly, they're just waiting for the swelling to go down before they can even know what they're dealing with. Eventually, the full picture comes into focus, and it's still serious, just not quite the nightmare scenario everyone feared. A torn LCL. Damage to his hamstring tendon. Possible involvement of other structures deep in the back of the knee. He needs surgery. His 2024 season is over before October even finishes. But here's what makes Rice's story so much heavier than just an injury. Because while all of this is happening, there's another storm already building in the background, one that has nothing to do with football at all. Months earlier, back in the spring of 2024, Rice had been involved in a terrifying incident on a Dallas highway. He was driving a high-performance SUV at speeds reportedly close to 120 miles an hour when he lost control. The crash set off a chain reaction, slamming into multiple vehicles, leaving people injured. Rice didn't stop right away. He left the scene. Weeks later, after meeting with police, he turned himself in, facing serious charges, including aggravated assault and charges connected to causing injuries to other drivers on that highway. So now, picture this. A young receiver, only a few seasons into his career, already a Super Bowl champion, already one of Mahomes' most trusted targets, rehabbing a season-ending knee injury while also waiting to find out what the legal system and the league are going to do to him. The answer comes before the 2025 season even starts. The league suspends him without pay for the first 6 games. Some inside the league pushed for an even longer punishment, but his representatives fought it down. 6 games it was. And when he finally returns to the field later in that season, there's real optimism. He looks like himself again, at least for stretches. The talent was never the question. It never has been with Rice. The question has always been whether he can stay on the field, and stay out of his own way. Then, just before Christmas of that same season, his year ends again. Not because of the knee this time, but a concussion. Another season cut short. Another walk to injured reserve. So by the time the 2026 offseason rolls around, Rice has played in only a fraction of the games his team has needed him for over the last 3 years. And just when it looks like he might finally get a clean run at an offseason, things get worse. Doctors find loose bodies floating around in that same right knee from the 2024 injury, debris causing inflammation, something that needs to be cleaned out surgically. He undergoes that procedure in May. And then, almost immediately after, comes the gut punch nobody saw coming. Rice fails a drug test. Marijuana shows up in his system, which puts him in direct violation of the probation tied to that highway crash from years earlier. The original deal had given him 5 years to serve a 30-day jail sentence whenever it best suited his schedule. This violation takes that choice away completely. A judge orders him into custody immediately. So picture this scene for a second, because it's almost hard to believe. A professional athlete, locked in a Dallas County jail cell, attempting to rehab a surgically repaired knee from behind bars. His team's head athletic trainer builds him a workout plan he can follow with whatever limited equipment is available. A judge allows him supervised trips to a nearby hospital for treatment. He misses every single off-season practice. Every walkthrough. Every rep with the new coordinator and the new pieces around him. All of it gone, while he sits inside a cell trying to keep a knee from stiffening up. 30 days later, in the middle of June, he's released. Cameras catch him sprinting past reporters, diving straight into a waiting SUV before anyone can ask him a single question. And now the Chiefs are left holding a complicated situation. Talent that can change a football game in an instant. A receiver who, when healthy and available, has put up some of the best numbers of any young wideout in the league. But also a player entering the final year of his rookie contract, with no extension currently on the table, carrying a cloud of uncertainty about whether the league will hand down even more punishment for this latest violation. It's being called, by people close to the situation, a one-year audition. Prove it in Kansas City, or prove it somewhere else. So that's Mahomes, fighting his way back from a shredded knee. That's Rice, fighting his own decisions as much as his own body. And now we get to the third storyline, one that doesn't involve a veteran star at all. This one belongs to a rookie who hasn't played a single regular season snap in the league yet, and who's already become one of the most talked about names in Kansas City. To understand why this rookie matters so much, you have to understand what the Chiefs lost first. Heading into this offseason, Kansas City made the surprising decision to trade away Trent McDuffie, one of their most reliable cornerbacks, sending him out west to the Rams. Then, just to make things worse, another key piece of that secondary, Jalen Watson, left in free agency, signing with that same Rams team. Just like that, Kansas City's pass defense had two massive holes that needed filling fast. So on draft night, the Chiefs made an aggressive move. They traded up 3 spots, all the way into the top 6 picks of the entire draft, just to make sure one specific player didn't slip past them. A cornerback out of LSU named Mansour Delane. They didn't just draft him. They handed him a fully guaranteed rookie contract worth tens of millions of dollars, a clear signal that this wasn't a developmental project. This was a player they expected to start contributing immediately, maybe even from week 1. For a while, everything looked smooth. Delane went through the early stages of the off-season program without any red flags. But then, at some point during organized team activities, something happened. Nobody's entirely sure exactly when or how. But by the time mandatory minicamp arrived in June, Delane wasn't practicing. And the way it played out was almost like a slow reveal. Reporters at the facility noticed him standing on the sidelines without his helmet on, which in football is almost always read as a sign that whatever's wrong isn't serious enough to keep him completely out of the building, but is serious enough to keep him off the field. He was seen doing small footwork drills off to the side, getting mental reps by just watching, soaking in the playbook even though his body couldn't participate. For days, the Chiefs didn't officially confirm what was going on. The speculation built. Was it his hamstring? His ankle? Something more serious that could threaten his entire rookie season before it even started? Finally, on the last day of minicamp, Coach Reed stepped up to the podium and gave a straight answer. Delane had hurt his shoulder. That's why they were holding him out. And then came the line every fan latched onto immediately. Reed said he was hopeful Delane would be ready for training camp. Hopeful. Such a small word, but anyone who follows the league knows exactly what it means. It's not a guarantee. It's the kind of word coaches use when they genuinely believe something will work out, but also know that bodies don't always cooperate on a timeline. The good news for Kansas City is that they didn't put all their eggs in one basket here either. Around the same time, they brought back a familiar face, veteran corner Jarius Sneed, a player who'd actually left the franchise before and was now returning. If Delane's shoulder doesn't heal in time, Sneed gives them a fallback option who already knows the system inside and out. But make no mistake, the Chiefs didn't trade up into the top 6 of the draft and hand out a fully guaranteed rookie contract because they wanted a backup plan. They want Delane on the field, in their colors, locking down receivers from day 1. Every single day his shoulder stays sore is a day closer to that not happening. So here's where we are right now, heading into the most important training camp this franchise has had in years. Patrick Mahomes, 9 months removed from a torn ACL and LCL, still hasn't been cleared for full contact team drills. His test comes in St. Joseph, Missouri, the moment he has to plant, cut, and run at full speed with real bodies around him for the first time since that December night. Rashee Rice, fresh out of jail, fresh off a second surgery on the same knee, still facing the possibility of additional league discipline, still trying to prove that his talent is worth all the risk that comes with him. And Mansour Delane, the rookie the Chiefs traded up to get, the player meant to help fix an entire secondary by himself, watching practice from the sidelines without a helmet, hoping a shoulder injury doesn't cost him the start to his career that everyone in Kansas City was counting on. 3 players. 3 timelines. All of them converging on the exact same date. Training camp. And then, just a few weeks after that, the lights, the cameras, and the Denver Broncos walking into Arrowhead Stadium for Monday Night Football, the opening night of a season that could either mark the beginning of the Chiefs reclaiming their throne, or the continuation of a slide nobody in Kansas City saw coming. Let's actually sit with that opener for a second, because it carries more weight than a normal Week 1 game ever does. Every single year, there's a team the league quietly bets on as a comeback story, and they hand that team the biggest spotlight of opening week to prove it. This year, that team is Kansas City. Think about what that means. The same league office that schedules these games months in advance, that studies storylines and ratings and drama before a single snap is played, looked at the Chiefs coming off a losing season, a torn ACL, a legal mess, and a rookie corner with an unsettled shoulder, and still said, put them on the biggest stage we have. That's either supreme confidence, or it's the league setting up the most dramatic possible collapse on national television. Either way, you can bet every single person around this organization feels that pressure ticking down like a clock. And that clock doesn't stop for excuses. It doesn't care that Mahomes is working through a rehab program that would break most players. It doesn't care that Rice spent 30 days behind bars instead of on a practice field. It doesn't care that Delane is a rookie who's already lost weeks of valuable development time before he's even put on pads for a real game. Training camp is coming whether these bodies are ready or not, and there's no version of this story where the Chiefs get to push the calendar back a few weeks just because the injury reports haven't cleared. Think about how strange that is for a second. This isn't some rebuilding team quietly figuring things out in the shadows. This is a franchise that's been to 5 Super Bowls in 6 seasons, a team built around the single best quarterback of this entire generation, and right now, in the middle of summer, with the season just weeks away, nobody in that building can tell you with full certainty whether their starting quarterback, their best slot weapon, or their top rookie cornerback will be ready to suit up on opening night. That's the part that should genuinely unsettle Chiefs fans watching this unfold from the outside. Because it's one thing to lose a player to injury during the season, when you've at least had time to build chemistry, install your system, and figure out who you are as a team. It's a completely different kind of danger to walk into the opening night of the season still asking those same basic questions. Is the quarterback fully healthy? Is the top receiver going to be available, or suspended, or still working his way back into game shape after missing nearly the entire off-season program? Is the rookie cornerback who was supposed to fix the secondary even going to be cleared to play? And here's the thing about training camp that makes it so different from everything that came before it in this story. OTAs are voluntary. Minicamp is controlled, scripted, mostly non-contact. Reporters get limited access, players wear protective jerseys, and coaches manage every single rep like they're handling something fragile. But training camp is different. Pads go on. Real contact returns. Players run real routes against real coverage at real speed, and there's nowhere left to hide. If Mahomes' knee is going to buckle under pressure, training camp is where it happens. If Rice's knee can't handle a full practice slate after months of irregular rehab, training camp is where that becomes obvious. And if Delane's shoulder can't take a real hit from a 300-pound lineman or a physical wide receiver fighting for position, training camp is exactly where that gets exposed too. This is why every single person who follows this team is going to be glued to reports coming out of St. Joseph this summer. Every practice update. Every mention of a yellow non-contact jersey. Every single time a player is or isn't spotted running full team drills. Those small, almost boring-sounding details are actually the entire ballgame here. Because buried inside those practice reports is the answer to the one question that will define this entire season before it even starts. Can this roster, the one built around 3 players currently working their way back from very different kinds of damage, actually hold together long enough to compete for what they've spent the last decade building? Nobody can tell you right now how this ends. Not Reed. Not the front office. Not even the players themselves, no matter how confident they sound in front of a microphone. The only thing that's certain is that the answers are coming soon, in late July, when pads finally go on and every single one of these storylines gets tested for real, in front of cameras, in front of fans, in front of a fan base that's waited an entire offseason just to find out if their team is actually whole again. So when training camp opens, and the first real hits start landing, that's the moment we finally find out the truth about this Kansas City Chiefs team. Not the hopeful version from a podium in June. The real one. And trust me, after everything you just heard, you're going to want to see exactly how it plays out.